I've always said, if you want to know what Blake and Ryan are doing as part of their PR strategy in this fight against Justin Baldoni, look to what they accuse him of. And this is just being highlighted in this absolute sham of a Doe lawsuit, which was only done to blindside Justin Baldoni and the other defendants in this Hollywood smear campaign bullshit article that was run with the New York Times. In fact, if you really want to know what it looks like to be within a Hollywood smear campaign, you don't have to look any further than Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. And I'm quite frankly getting tired of their bullshit. This video is going to get no reach, but I refuse to be silenced, and I refuse. I've always said, if you want to know what Blake and Ryan are doing as part of their PR strategy in this fight against Justin Baldoni, look to what they accuse him of. And this is just being highlighted in this absolute sham of a Doe lawsuit, which was only done to blindside Justin Baldoni and the other defendants in this Hollywood smear campaign bullshit article that was run with the New York Times. In fact, if you really want to know what it looks like to be within a Hollywood smear campaign, you don't have to look any further than Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. And I'm quite frankly getting tired of their bullshit. So we are going to break down an overview of this sham lawsuit and how some of these names get dragged into it, because Taylor Swift is there again. And I'm going to tell y'all, those that have been fighting for Taylor, saying Taylor had no idea. She is so innocent in this. She is being used by bullshit. Bullshit. I don't believe it for a second. That is the brand Taylor has built and the psychological branding and marketing she's built within her brand to make it seem like she's always just a victim of circumstances. But it just keeps coming out that Taylor's name can't get removed from this. So let's begin. I first want to look at the obvious PR moves that were done leading up to this quote unquote subpoena being made public, which from what I've seen, and we're going to pull up a Twitter thread, it doesn't even, or X, sorry. Oh my goodness, I haven't said Twitter in a long time. X thread, where it doesn't even look like it was an actual subpoena, although it keeps being said that it is. I also want to say before we go too far that the two platforms that had broke this news were Without a Crystal Ball and Daily Mail. There has been some accusations that the Daily Mail did not give credit. However, lawyers have spoken that they were actually being interviewed by the Daily Mail earlier in the week in regards to this article coming out. But I wanted to give credit to both platforms, especially Without a Crystal Ball, because good on you finding this. So I first want to look at the PR leading up to the news breaking. I believe all of this PR was planned. They knew this was coming out. I don't think Blake and Ryan were overly blindsided by it. I also believe this is why Stephanie Jones had hired criminal defense attorneys. I feel like everyone knew this was going to come out, and I feel like they damn well know it is shady AF. So in the last week, we got hit with at least three. These are the three major ones that you can just tell the PR all over it, because they're all about, but we're such good people. We're philanthropists. We help. We're advocating for children. We couldn't be the bad guys. So we had number one, Blake being named a Titan by Time Magazine for a donation that she did in 2019, which was a PR donation after being called out for her plantation wedding. That, I can't say with certainty that it was a paid spot, but at the very least, phone calls were made. I think we can all agree that the very least phone calls were made to get her on that list. The only thing that Blake Lively has had influence on in 2025 is being a liar and manipulating the media. She has had a lot of influence, and maybe she is a Titan of 2025 for finally uniting people against legacy media and bullies. So maybe I'm wrong. Congrats, Blake. Good job. You are a Titan for something. But it is sure as shit not a donation you made in 2019. Number two, Ryan Reynolds appeals to Ontario Council to rename an arena after Grace. Now, his connection to Grace going back over 10 years is real. He is also, I'm going to give him his due where it's owed, he has been involved in Sick Kids and worked with them yearly for fundraising. However, It's the timing of all of a sudden him advocating for Grace and to have a hockey arena renamed after Grace after she lost her fight with cancer that seems sketchy to me. It just happens after 10 years that now you're advocating for this. And hey, I can at least admit that maybe there is something going on behind the scenes where it was just like, I don't know, city council's like, hey, 10 years later, this arena's up for renaming. What do I know? I can't find anything to say that, but maybe there is. And he's using that opportunity. The timing just feels sketchy. It feels like a calculated PR move because I'm pretty certain it is. Number 3, Ryan Reynolds has had this project on the back burner for some time, and it's starting to make the news again. And it's around the documentary he's going to be doing around one of Toronto's most iconic comedians, John Candy. Now, he's already been doing the narrative seeding around Tragically Hip and being in Kingston. He's putting his name, that's a psychological tool in branding and marketing, is he's putting his name next to legends, people that you genuinely love and have positive feelings for. Because when you put your name next to someone that you already like and have positive feelings for, the idea is, and psychologically, what happens is you start to have positive feelings for the other person. So those are the 3 pieces that came out earlier this week. And I did a video on it and I said, something's coming. I also said that with Stephanie Jones hiring criminal defense attorneys. I said, something is coming. They are planning something and making these old stories new again. 2019 donation, all of a sudden new again. A documentary Ryan's been talking about for years, all of a sudden new again. The Hollywood North, they've been talking about that for years, all of a sudden revitalized. Ryan Reynolds, this project with John Candy, about John Candy, revitalized and in the news again. It just seems like too much of a coincidence. Now, we're going to break down because we also had Stephanie Jones April 8th, April 9th, where she hired lawyers. And we're going to break that down as well. That gave the feel for her planning and seeing something coming. And I 100% am of the mindset that she knew this was coming. So let's break down really quick. I do have a video on this, so I don't want to go into it too much here, but it is relevant, I feel, to all of them, the moves they're making, maybe even bringing in the CIA guy to hide things, right? I told you guys from the beginning, I said, don't worry about what you see. Bringing in Shapiro was about what you don't see, what doesn't make it to the news. That's why he was hired for things like Airbnb and the black box team. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Now the video is not going to get any reach. Oh, damn it. But that's why he was in there. It wasn't to clean up what was already in the media. It was to prevent things from getting to the media in the first place and paying people off and making things go away. So all these little seeds that have been planted all along have always led me to believe that more was going on. Now, Maureen Aliyah Shaw, I apologize if I mispronounced her name. She is very adept, it says, her bio at handling matters involving media exposure. So this is Stephanie Jones' recent hire. Public scrutiny or reputational risk, both behind the scenes and when these issues spill out into the public view. She focuses her practice on businesses and commercial litigation, as well as arts, fashion, media, and entertainment matters. She is a powerhouse at being able to control the narrative and advocating for clients. Look at this. Blah, 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 words. Kendall Jenner turns to Quinn Emanuel in fight with Italian fashion brand. So she represented Kendall Jenner. Stephanie Jones also brought in Kristen N. Toller. Her practice focuses on white-collar criminal defense, internal investigations, and complex civil matters often related to criminal or quasi-criminal charges or fraudulent conduct. They knew what was coming, and they knew it was shady as shit. You don't bring in lawyers like this. You don't bring in Shapiro. And I have had people on my case from the beginning being like, Shapiro's basically a secretary. He didn't do much in the CIA and he didn't have a role in all this bullshit. And I've stayed firm on my beliefs around it. And it is coming true that there was shady shit going on behind the scenes. Just like with Airbnb, with Black Box. Nicholas Inns, he prosecuted and defended sailors accused of felonies and litigated more than 30 contested cases to verdicts. Felonies. So, what came out this week after the PR stunts by Blake and Ryan? This company called VanZan. We're going to break it down. And I do have some threads on X that we're going to look at as well. And I'm going to break down a timeline because, again, you're not going to convince me that Taylor Swift's fingers aren't all up in this case. You won't convince me. And I think there's going to be a lot more coming out. So basically, it's a shell company. The only thing we can find, or anyone's been able to find, that this company has purchased is like supplies for Taylor Swift's music video, I Bet You Think About Me, which is the one Blake Lively produced. That's the only thing you can find on this company. So Taylor Swift's name is within all of this again. Now, this image is from Without a Crystal Ball, VanZan Incorporated. This is just the information. Company number is here, previous company number. So the company number had changed. The status had been forfeited, so it wasn't in good standing. Incorporated date was September 29th, 2010. Dissolution date, January 2nd, 2013. Company type, stock corporation, out of state stock. Jurisdiction, California. Branch of VanZan Incorporated, Delaware, US. Registered address was in New York. Inactive directors or officers, Blake Reynolds, CEO. Blake Reynolds, secretary. Blake Reynolds, chief executive or chief financial officer. And Eric Binder, agent. Seeking Serenity over on X at Serenity Gal 2 also has some interesting threads about it. So we will hop over there to have a look. All right, so we're going to check out this thread. And one thing I will say is having multiple businesses isn't abnormal. I have had so many businesses I've started over the years that I really didn't do anything with, and they were just not in good standing because I didn't do anything with them. So that's not necessarily in itself shady. It's when you start to add up everything that is shady. And so I just wanted to make sure that's clear, that just having a business that you didn't do anything with, I mean, I have businesses that I never ended up doing anything with, and they're not shady. So let's look here. Seeking Serenity has VanZan Inc. was filed with CAS0S in 2010 and forfeited inactive in 2013. On 9/18/23, a statement of information was filed reinstating the business standing. On 9/27/24, VanZan filed a complaint in New York against Doe's, withdrawn 12/19/24. And so it's interesting when you start to see these dates and how they line up with the Justin Baldoni case. And I have a timeline where I break it down. We also have here VanZan Inc. business documents that are publicly available on CA section of state website, Secretary of State website. First pick is the statement of information doc, the reinstatement after 10 years of inactivity. So that's what we're seeing here. And those are the files with the California Secretary of State. So it looks like 1/2/2013, system amendment forfeited. All right, let's keep going. Note the 8/18/21 statement of information in the history appears to only be a change in the company number. So it looks like they changed the company number from C3323526 to 3323526. Possibly change in numbering system. There are no other filings showing activity. The re-upping of the business status on 9/18/23 is quite interesting when comparing to Exhibit A Baldoni timeline. For example, the WGA strike and end of production of Phase 1 was 6/14/23. Then the 17-point list issue was in November 2023, and Phase 2 production started 1/4/24. So you're starting to see, and if you're watching on YouTube, we have the images here. Let me make the images larger for you guys. We have the images here, and it does seem a little shady that something may have been being planned all along. Now, there's a clarification here. In looking at the initial filing, VanZan Incorporated in 2010, the CEO and registered agent was listed as Eric Rothschild. I redacted address for his privacy. The Blake Reynolds name as CEO doesn't pop up until 2021, and she wanted to clear that up. And I don't know how he's connected to them. Honestly, this is the document here. And we can see Eric Rothschild, CEO, State of Delaware, September 29th, 2010. I'm not a lawyer, so what that means, I don't know. I don't know if he's connected to them in some way. But the Blake Reynolds name as CEO doesn't pop up until 2021. Anyone want to dig into that? Definitely dig into that. Seeking Serenity continues with, based on a quick search about Mr. Rothschild, VanZan Inc. appears to have been a DBA he used for another business name. So it looks like the VanZan business under Rothschild went inactive in 2013, and then Blake Reynolds took over the name in 2021, which is when we see it reinstated. It's so interesting overall because Van is what Ryan uses quite frequently in terms of his social media. So Vancouver. And I believe Zan, I can't remember, I have it on a later slide, references where Blake grew up. All right, so this is where we get into the filed complaint. VanZan Inc. filed a complaint against Doe's 1 to 10 on 9/27/24. It was withdrawn on 12/19/24, one day before the CRD New York Times piece on 12/20. Also, Jones references Doe's 1 to 10 in her suit, claiming they are people who created defamatory websites and fake accounts to defame her. How do you defame VanZan, which is essentially a shell company more than anything? The only thing we can really see is purchases of furniture or supplies for Taylor Swift video. I want to know ultimately, and it's not a rabbit hole I'll probably be able to go down, but how is he connected to them? That's what I want to know. How is this Rothschild connected to them? I keep wanting to say Rothschild because with the S, it's actually a very prominent family in the financial world and Hollywood. Also, Rothschild is Bongo, the show jumping horse, if anyone follows show jumping or equestrianism. But anyway, I keep wanting to say Rothschild, but from what I can find, this person involved Rothschild without the S. I can't find that there is any family connection to the Rothschild. I don't know if I lost everyone with that. But we see this added. So 9/27/2024, VanZan Inc. is a plaintiff against Doe's 1 to 10 inclusive defendants. This says plaintiffs, VanZan Inc. plaintiff by and through its attorney Manette Phelps and Phillips LLP for its complaint against the unnamed Doe's 1 to 10, the Doe defendants, inclusive hereby alleges as follows. In this image, it looks like Seeking Serenity shared from Without a Crystal Ball. And then we have here is another document shared. John Doe's 1 to 10 are unknown individuals who created and published the defamatory websites Stephanie Jones Leaks and Stephanie Jones Lies. That is hilarious. I'm going through this in real time with you guys. I haven't done a lot of research on this case. That is hilarious because Stephanie Jones Lies keeps popping up. And they even had like Pinterest accounts and X accounts. It just kills me that it was like whack-a-mole Stephanie had with them, as well as more than a dozen fake social media accounts and dark web accounts that defamed Jones and Jones' work. Jurisdiction and venue. The court has jurisdiction over this dispute and over defendants Abel Nathan Baldoni and Wayfair Studios pursuant to New York civil practice law and rules, section 301, because all defendants systematically and continuously conduct and solicit business within New York and have availed themselves of the privileges of conducting business in the state of New York. Do they know who runs Stephanie Jones Lies? This is very confusing to me. I'm not going to lie, because you have this Eric Rothschild that seems to have owned it first or been the CEO of this company first, but VanZan seems like a Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds name. Could it be a coincidence? I suppose. It goes back to the date where they would have met on the set of Green Lantern, which there was all kinds of speculation they were cheating back then. And then today, 4/18 in Subpoena Gate, the Daily Mail is reporting about the VanZan complaint. And then Leanne Newton also talks about it as well. So we'll just look at here. I don't want to go through everything. You can go to Leanne's page as well. Leanne says, I have several issues with this filing, which individually probably don't mean anything. Taken in combination, they bother me. I will go through them across multiple posts in the thread with the document pages attached. So this is the summons that is attached to the complaint. Some people misunderstood and thought it was a subpoena. That's what it is. It was summons, not subpoena. It is not a subpoena. And she said, I'm not saying without a crystal ball claimed it was a subpoena, but many people messaged me and mistakenly believed it was a subpoena. So I'll use this opportunity to provide clarification. It does say summons at the top right half of the page. There is no named defendant. Having Doe defendants in filings is not unusual. It happens when the identity is not yet known, but expected to be ascertained during discovery, which is weird to me because if this was all to get those text messages, you knew who they were. You knew it was Justin. You knew it was Jennifer Abe. You knew who it was. So to me, that is sketchy AF. You knew. They're not does. You're just trying to hide behind a legal loophole, just like they do with astroturfing, Blake and Ryan, just like they do with narrative control, just like they do with SEO manipulation. Those aren't technically illegal things to do. It's just shady AF. And so you're using this loophole as a Doe defendant when you damn well knew who you were going after. The complaint would subsequently be updated. This is Leanne continuing. The complaint would subsequently be updated and name the defendants once their identity is established. Interestingly, Stephanie Jones had Doe want to attend the complaint she originally filed against Abel and Wayfair, where it is rather usual is having only Doe defendants in a filing. So weird. This whole thing is just a mess. The dates are rather specific in terms of whether this is related to the subpoena served on Stephanie Jones. That subpoena is alleged to be dated October 1st, 2024. This case was filed on September 27th, 2024. The filing is signed off by a partner at Mannett, Phelps, and Phillips LLP. This attorney is based on the New York office. The law firm is representing Lively and Reynolds, but the CA firm. Oh, okay, so it's a different branch. There's a different law firm for their New York representation. That makes sense. I've highlighted this information in yellow as it's rather generic. So yep, there it is. Summons, index number, summons. Interesting. And then she highlights the law firm there, Mannett, Phelps, and Phillips LLP. The nature of the action. Here we now have the complaint itself. I've highlighted in pink because these are points of interest about the substance of the claims themselves, which echoed much of Lively's retaliation campaign claims against the Wayfair parties. She says, through this complaint, VanZan is arguing that it is the employer who has been damaged by the actions of the employee, and there was something rather familiar about it in the narrative. It was very similar to Stephanie Jones' complaint about Jen Abel, minus the cattiness. Whoops. I am now questioning whether this could indicate evidence, which would need to be established that Reynolds Lively inserted with or without knowledge Jones' grievances against Abel into the lawsuit as part of a possible collaborative effort. This is such a mess. And I said in a thread yesterday, this is Leanne, that I believe that Jones and Sloan were working together in August as the sequence of events on the day the phone was confiscated seemed to be coordinated with military precision. I'm sure people will say it's a far-fetched theory. However, there is nothing about this case that seems textbook. Yeah, exactly. My reasons for considering this are the claims. One, the claims here are very similar to Jones' Works claims. Two, Jones originally filed in the same court, New York Supreme Court. The filing refer very specifically to learning of the actions of the employee damaging the employer in August 2024. Are they, okay, you guys have to let me know in the comments. Are they insinuating that Jennifer Abel's behind Stephanie Jones' lies? That I would die. That would be hilarious if it was an employee all along. Well, I guess it was said to be an employee all along. Anyway, there was also reference, Leanne says, to the sharing of confidential company information. Again, another very specific claim from Jones against Abel. Jones' complaint originally included Does 1 to 10. And she says, when I went through the Jones filings, I felt that Jones protested quite a bit about the information being produced with a valid subpoena, almost too much. And then she has text highlighted in green and the parts that did differ from Lively's complaint against Wayfair. I didn't notice at the time, but they echo Jones' complaint against Abel. And we're not going to read through all of this. Essentially, it's saying despite these obligations, the Doe defendants have undertaken direct efforts to contravene these agreements and instead of participate and may continue to participate in efforts to harm plaintiff. The green portion, upon information and belief, each of the Doe defendants are individuals and or companies that are domiciled. I don't know. I pronounced that wrong for sure. Reside, have their principal places of business and or are incorporated or organized in New York. At this time, plaintiff is not privy to the names or identities of the individual defendants. And then she's saying, upon information and belief in or around August 2024, the Doe defendants breached the Doe duties by acting in a manner that was inconsistent with and damaging to plaintiff's business, interests, and reputation. This is just a web of bullshit, all of it. How do you even sort through all of this? Leanne continues with point 5, first and second cause of action. So I highlighted my pages before I considered the possibility that Lively or Reynolds used their inactive business to file a lawsuit with Stephanie Jones' claims against Jen Abel as a possible smokescreen to obtain a subpoena. The first two causes of action are pretty standard: breach of contract and breach of the covenant of good faith and fair dealing. Both Lively and Jones are claiming breach of contract, but neither are claiming breach of the covenant of good faith and fair dealing. This is so weird. The highlighted part here says, upon information and belief in or around August 2024, the Doe defendants breached the Doe duties by acting in a manner that was inconsistent with and damaging to plaintiff's business, interests, and reputation, including but not limited to failing to act in plaintiff's best interest, taking actions in bad faith or to their personal benefit at plaintiff's expense, failing to freely communicate with plaintiffs regarding matters that impacted plaintiff's business and or reputation, and disclosing to third parties and failing to keep strictly confidential plaintiff's confidential and or private information. In addition, upon information and belief in or around August 2024, the Doe defendants became aware of and failed to inform plaintiffs about conduct by third parties that had a reasonable likelihood of causing, was designed to cause, and did cause monetary damages and irreparable harm to plaintiff's business interests, and to plaintiff's business and reputation. Oh my goodness. Point 6 is faithless servant claim. She says, I will do a separate post about that. This is a claim that's specific to the employer-employee relationship, and broadly speaking, it's designed to attempt to reclaim all the salary, commissions, etc., that the employee earned during their tenure with the employer. Oh my gosh. Or be shown that the employee engaged in misconduct. It's also a claim that Jones is pursuing against Abel in her lawsuit. So it says here, as a result of the misconduct, unfaithfulness, contractual breaches, and violation of their duties of good faith and loyalty to plaintiff, the Doe defendants, at a minimum, forfeited the right to receive and are obligated to return to plaintiff any and all income they receive from plaintiff from and after commencement of the Doe defendants' wrongdoings. Oh my gosh. Including without limitation all fees, bonuses, and profits received in connection with their work for plaintiff in the amount to be determined at trial. Wow. And then Leanne had mentioned that she thinks Brian Freeman knew about this, but Brian Freeman did make a statement in, I think, the Daily Mail saying that he had no idea about this. Now let's look at this very convoluted timeline of everything, because Eric Rothschild really throws a wrench in all of this, but we're going to break it down. In 2010, VanZan Incorporated is incorporated with Eric Rothschild, not Blake Lively. In 2010, what's so interesting about all of this is it's also when Blake and Ryan were filming The Green Lantern. Does this confirm an affair that they had somehow been involved in creating this VanZan company? Because Van for Vancouver, Zan for, is it Tarzana, where Blake lived? I don't know. I'm Canadian. I don't know American city names, but it's like a combination of the areas they lived in. It just seems really sketchy. And when so many things in a case make me go, it just feels like there's sketchy shit going on, even if it might not be. So 2010, Eric Rothschild starts VanZan. 2010 is also Green Lantern being filmed by Blake and Ryan. Were they having an affair? I've always assumed they have. Speculation has been that they have. 2013, VanZan Inc. becomes inactive, forfeiting its good standing. Interestingly enough, November 2021 is when Blake Lively directs Taylor Swift's I Bet You Think About Me music video. It seems as though she has now been put in place within VanZan in November 2021, from what I can find. VanZan Inc. is used to purchase supplies and handle certain production expenses with that music video, from what can be found out about it. However, it was September 2023, years after its dormancy, that was formally reinstated with the California Secretary of State under Blake Reynolds as CEO, CFO, secretary, and she's apparently in control. Now, I've kind of looked into a couple scenarios on what could go on and how this could have worked. I'm not a lawyer. I don't play one on TV, so what do I know? I don't even know what kind of lawyer you would look at for this, but I was researching a couple reasons something like this might happen. And number one is like non-nefarious, and Rothschild sold or transferred ownership to Blake. So that's the non-conspiracy theory. Is he set it up in 2010. He was listed as CEO and the registered agent, so he legally had control. And in or around 2021, he transferred ownership over to Blake through sale, share transfer, corporate restructuring, I don't know. And that could explain why Blake's name doesn't appear till 2021 as CEO, and why all of a sudden it was used to purchase supplies for Taylor Swift's music video. And then maybe in 2023, she formally reinstates it. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just speculating here. I'm just saying what I've been able to find. This scenario could imply that Blake took over an existing shell or dormant company rather than starting a new one, which is common, apparently, from what I was able to find. Apparently, it's common in entertainment and real estate for tax, privacy, or logistical reasons. Again, what do I know? I'm not trying to argue for one direction or the other. I'm just saying what I found. Scenario 2, Blake was always involved but unlisted. That could be a more PR sensitive option, like just like this case, right? Just like this subpoena, summons, whatever it is that's going on, her name wasn't anywhere on it, really, on the surface. So potentially scenario 2, which I could find, is she was always involved, just not formally listed. So Eric Rothschild may have been a nominee CEO, a placeholder, or proxy. Blake or her team may have used the company informally or behind the scenes for years before her name ever appeared. And from what I could find, those setups are often used to maintain privacy or conduct early stage production work without media attention. So potentially could, and this is my conspiracy theory, potentially could they have had Eric set up this company under VanZan, which is a nod, a wink, Van City Reynolds and Blake Lively. But because they were both in relationships, Ryan Reynolds was married and Blake Lively was with, I believe, Penn Badgley at that time. They didn't want their names anywhere near this shit. So did they nominate someone or put someone in their place until it was right to take it over? I think that's a very logical explanation. If you are married, do you want it to come out that you started a company with your girlfriend? Probs not. Just throwing it out there. So that could have been happening because they didn't want the media attention if a company popped up with Blake and Ryan's name in 2010. Now, and especially since it's not like they were promoting, you could tell they were together based on the media, the marketing and PR for that movie, but they were trying to keep it on like the DL and pretend it wasn't happening. And then in 2021, when the company was used for a high profile Taylor Swift video, maybe Blake, it was like safe to put her name on it. Maybe they hadn't really used it up until that point. So it made sense to not do anything with it. Maybe they even forgot about it. Who knows? And so when the music video came out and her name maybe still wasn't, because I don't think it was 2023 that, from what I can find, it was formally reinstated with her name. Was she acting through a trust, a proxy, through someone else, through this Eric guy? I don't know. I'm just putting it out there that maybe that is why they started this company. So, and then in 2023, when the company needed to be reactivated or legitimized, for a lawsuit against Doe's to get a subpoena for text messages so that you can blindside Justin Baldoni and Wayfair, she puts her name down as formal CEO. That's my conspiracy theory. That's my conspiracy theory. And I think more often than not, conspiracy theories are right. The one that makes the most logical sense is you just sold or transferred it. But I'm sorry, with people that are all about Easter eggs, with Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift, with all their bullshit Easter eggs, I don't believe the name is by accident. And the fact that Ryan Reynolds puts Van in everything for Vancouver, Canada, I do not think, there's no way that is a coincidence. I do believe in coincidence. I don't believe in that many coincidences and that specific of a coincidence where you're just like, oh, look, honey, you want your own company? You want another company? You want a shell company? Well, look, this guy just so happens to be selling VanZan. How funny. It's both of our cities' names that we grew up in. Haha, we should buy it. It just seems too much of a coincidence for me. So my theory is that Eric was put in place because there was no damn way that Ryan and Blake were going to attach their names to something when they're in relationships and Ryan's married. I just don't see it having happened. And then when it needed to be legitimized and have her name on it for this Doe lawsuit, that's when she actually put her name on it. Because one of the things I could find is, taking away that kind of stand-in, if there's a project coming up, was one thing I could find where you need clean paperwork. You want the names, the records straight. Well, I would say you want clean paperwork if you're going to be setting up a bogus Doe lawsuit to take out an innocent man. And I think all of this shit is going to come out, and that's why Nick Shapiro's involved, and that's why Stephanie Jones is getting a felonies team in place and criminal charges and quasi-criminal charges team in place. I honestly think either could be the case. I genuinely think either could be the case. So that's my conspiracy theory on this whole situation. So we have all that. September 2023, after years of dormancy, VanZan Inc. is formally reinstated with California Secretary of State Blake Lively is there under Blake Reynolds. September 2nd, 2023, Blake, Ryan, Taylor start doing pap walks together. You start to see them out visibly in public. This is where I used to always make the joke that you could tell something was going on, because it was kind of like that baby we got bad blood vibe going on. Like, you're going to really fuck with us? Do you know who we are? They were just suddenly always together in the media. And we got the post from Taylor around that time in her Instagram stories. I've never seen her, not saying it's never happened, but never see her give a shout out like that to someone's movie. So we start to get all these pap walks October 2nd, 2023, a month after this shady ass company's reinstated. And y'all think, I know not you guys, you're smart, that Taylor doesn't know what's going on. That is just her friend's boss. Like, come on. There's no way. Taylor she's not seen unless she wants to be seen. Celebrities get around quietly day to day. If they're seen, they want to be seen. So October 2nd, pics of also Taylor, Blake, Hugh, Ryan, Sean Levy at the Jets game, the Chiefs versus Jets game, which also went down in history as an example of SEO manipulation for Taylor Swift, because she was getting hit with all of this, people being pissed over private jet use. And then boop, all of a sudden Taylor's at a Jets game, guys. Funny. Coincidence? I don't know. February 11th, Blake was at the Super Bowl with Taylor. 2024, not 2025. So again, they're constantly being seen together. They've been friends for how long? And all of a sudden they're constantly being seen together. Not saying they were never seen together previously, but you have to admit, if you are being a critical thinker, you have to admit that all of a sudden it ramped up. And that's also what I find weird about Taylor being seen with Ronan Farrow. They have been friends for a while. I'm going to be doing some videos in members only for that. I'm filming them next week. They have been friends for a while. And all of a sudden he's seeing me like, good night, Taylor, after dinner around the time that Blake's being put in contact with the New York Times. And yes, I know Ronan Farrow does not write for the New York Times, but don't tell me that powerful people don't have connections and they all don't know what's going on, because I don't believe it. I've seen too much in Hollywood and I know too much. So what we then see in July 22nd, 2024 is the Deadpool and Wolverine premiere. This is where Gigi shows up. And I thought it was really weird. I assumed Gigi was Ladypool for her showing up at this. I was like, oh, cool. She's Ladypool. That makes sense then. But no, apparently she wasn't. So Hugh Jackman, Blake Lively, Gigi Ryan show up there. We then have July 25th, 2024. Taylor promotes Deadpool and Wolverine in her IG stories. She says, over the past few years, I've watched one of my best friends on this planet pour every bit of his heart, soul, sweat, time, energy, jokes, pain, joy, rebellion, darkness, and magic into this film. He's created the best work of his life. And yeah. All right, Taylor. Best work of his life, just shredding people and making fun of people. So that's Taylor's sense of humor as well. There you go. Best work of his life is making fun of Justin Baldoni. Best work of his life is the whole dog pool situation where, and you guys can see I have a whole video on dog pool. I can put it in the show notes here. So you're dragging people you have problems with, and that's the best work of his life. Should I be surprised though from Taylor when that's been her work? And I'm not against writing about exes, but you know, call a spade a spade. These people, I'm just so tired of these people. I've got to be honest. He's created the best work of his life, and this film feels like an actual joy portal. For who? Justin Baldoni? For the people he targeted in it? For the people he made fun of in it? Is that what the joy portal is, Taylor? I'm going to start calling her Taylor Smith because I saw a video on X the other day where the reporter calls her Taylor Smith. And then Taylor just looks like so offended that they didn't get her name right. Who is this a joy portal for? So feels like an actual joy portal, a wild escape from reality. It is an escape for reality because you can't believe this shit is true. And an ab sandwich. I don't know how he did it, but that's just Hugh for you. These other randoms crashed the photo and we were too polite to ask them to leave. So in the picture, there's Blake and Ryan as well. Obviously, she's talking about Ryan, but makes the Ryan Reynolds probably wrote this because it sounds like a Ryan Reynolds joke. But I have no doubt that Taylor was sitting right there. Deadpool and Wolverine is out tomorrow. Here's where to buy pictures if you like things that are unspeakably awesome. Shout out to Wade Wilson, aka the God Kid's sperm donor. No, I'm not frozen. I am just so confused. These people are all so detached with reality is the problem. It ends with us premiere August 6, 2024. This is when Justin gets put to the basement. Blake, Ryan, and Hugh Jackman shows up. Which even at the time I was like, WTF is going on? This is so weird. Like the second Hugh walked on the pink carpet, how offensive for a DV film. It's like, what is going on? September 27th, 2024, VanZan Inc. through attorney Samantha Kotze files a lawsuit in New York, Manhattan Supreme Court against Doe's 1 to 10, accusing unnamed individuals of harming the company's interests. The suit is deliberately broad and does not mention the true players, keeping it under wraps. October 1st, 2024, using the above lawsuit, VanZan Inc. issues a subpoena, which I think really is the summons. This is all just so confusing. There's so many moving parts, but I think it's the summons to Stephanie Jones, Justin Baldoni's ex-publicist, and Jones Works, because I don't think we've actually seen a subpoena at this point. I don't think. Subpoena demands all records related to Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, their businesses, and Justin Baldoni. Jones complies, handing over text messages and emails. She doesn't fight it. She's like, here you go. So they're all in on it. These communications reveal a plan, quote unquote, planned smear campaign against Lively by Baldoni's associates. And I say, quote unquote, because it's bullshit. They doctored those images. October 11th, 2024, Travis, Taylor, Blake, and Ryan are seen out for dinner. TMZ, Taylor Swift, and Travis Kelce hang with Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively. Couple take a bite out of the Big Apple, so they're all out together. Again, just around all of these significant timelines. But Taylor's not involved. And Taylor knows nothing about this. He's just her friend's boss. That is such a load of crap. So all of this stuff happens. And then Taylor's just always with Blake around the time it happens. October, November 2024, the subpoena texts, including messages like, we can bury anyone about Lively, are analyzed by Lively's team. They provide, according to Lively, evidence that Baldoni's production team were conspiring to retaliate against her. That's what she claims. November 8th, 2024, Taylor Swift and Ronan Farrow are seen at dinner together. They're longtime friends. You tell me how many times they've been photographed in public together. You tell me. I think that's the only time. December 19th, 2024, the VanZan Inc. versus Doe's lawsuit is quietly withdrawn in New York, dismissed without fanfare. Now that it's objective, obtaining evidence, obtaining the text messages has been achieved, and it just goes away. December 20th, 2024, Blake Lively files a complaint with the California Civil Rights Department against Justin Baldoni and his associates, alleging sexual harassment and retaliation during the production of It Ends With Us. December 21st, 2024, the New York Times published an article titled "We Can Bury Anyone Inside a Hollywood Smear Campaign," detailing the alleged smear campaign against Lively. And there's metadata that shows it had been worked on apparently since October. December 31st, 2024, Justin Baldoni's lawsuit against the New York Times. December 31st, 2024, Lively filed a federal lawsuit in New York against Baldoni and others, expanding upon her allegations. I still think she had no intention of doing that and was just because at that point she really had no choice other than be, a decent human being and be like, fuck, okay, I'm just dropping this. But in her mind, she had no choice because she was getting pressure of people saying, see, everyone online was like, see, you were never going to do anything with it. January, February 2025, Baldoni escalates by filing the $400 million defamation lawsuit against Blake and Ryan. March 2025, Lion. Yeah, they are liars. Lively and Reynolds file motions to dismiss Baldoni's defamation suit, calling it baseless and abuse of the legal system. April 8th, Jones, and April 9th, Stephanie Jones hires those lawyers we talked about. April 2025, the Daily Mail and Without a Crystal Ball break the story of the secret VanZan lawsuit, drawing public attention to the previously sealed proceedings. Media coverage starts to outline how Lively and Reynolds used VanZan to obtain Baldoni's text messages covertly, because then Justin Baldoni couldn't be notified that this was going on because it was all on the DL, even though these shady assholes knew exactly who they were going after. I can't stand, I have just lost all objectivity at this point in time. Baldoni's attorney, Brian Freeman, responds to press calling the tactics super shady and a sham lawsuit designed to abuse the subpoena process. And also with that, what you see in, I think it was the Daily Mail, is Brian Freeman said we had no idea about this. And yeah, there's a lot of media reports coming out now about what I said is Taylor Swift was kind of like pulled back into this mess because apparently VanZan had been used in her 2021 music video to buy supplies. So while she doesn't have a direct role, it does seem like her name is pulled back into it. Now I'm going to pull up the Daily Mail article. All right, so this is the Daily Mail article. It turns out they were interviewing lawyers throughout the week to get their take on this. Revealed Blake Lively's super shady legal tactic that set off war with Justin Baldoni before he even had a clue. Blake Lively quietly filed a clandestine lawsuit months before her legal war with It Ends With Us co-star Justin Baldoni before it became public in an apparent plot to seize damning text messages from his publicist. The filing allowed her attorneys to issue a subpoena for the embarrassing text and then drop the lawsuit, all without Baldoni's team knowing it even existed. This is what I'm talking about. I believe that's why they did it, because he wouldn't be alerted to it. And so he was blindsided by this. Now, a DailyMail.com investigation has uncovered the full story behind the obscure suit, which was filed without names of the defendants by a company owned by Lively in an apparent bid to avoid detection. Lively experts say the case appeared to be a sham, or legal experts, Lively wouldn't say it. Would Lively come out? Guys, let me know. Would Lively come out and be like, yeah, man, it was a sham. It was bullshit. I was being shady as shit. I don't know. Probably not. Maybe she would. Legal experts say the case appeared to be a sham lawsuit, with one describing as super shady. Baldoni's attorney, Brian Freeman, told the DailyMail.com this appears to be an end around, skirting the process to be able to secretly get these documents without having to give anyone notice. That would be an abuse of process, and we intend to take all action allowable under the law. I think this is why I don't care. I'm going to die on this hill. That's fine, because people have judged me from it from the beginning, and so far I have been right about this. This is why you bring in someone like Nick Shapiro that knows how to make sure things don't get to the press. Obviously, this still got to the press. I think in this day and age, with social media and the amount of attention this lawsuit's getting, I don't know how you hide anything. So there you go. Freeman said he had no knowledge about the lawsuit until dailymail.com contacted him to ask for a comment. Can you believe that? No idea until Daily Mail. And this is also why I think, not to take away anything from anyone that broke this news. There's been a lot of accusations that, oh, that's legacy media stealing from creators. I do think that Daily Mail was kind of behind the eight ball in getting this out because they were waiting for statements to come in and to contact Freeman. So Freeman does say that he had no idea until Daily Mail contacted him. Lively's lawyer said the newly uncovered lawsuit was common and entirely appropriate and accused Freeman of faux outrage. Court papers show the shadow lawsuit was filed in Manhattan Supreme Court on September 27th last year by a company called VanZan. The lawsuit accused up to 10 unidentified individuals listed only as Doe's 1 to 10 of harming VanZan's business and reputation, but did not specify what they did wrong. How do you harm VanZan's business and reputation when it's a shell company and the only thing it's done is buy shit for Taylor Swift's music video? How do you harm VanZan's business and reputation? And this is why my conspiracy, this is what I believe happened. They couldn't create the company under Blake and Ryan's name in 2010 because they were married in long-term relationships, and she had to eventually put her name under it officially so that she could say this, harming business and reputation. They're gonna be like, what, to Eric Rothschild? Who is Eric Rothschild? Do you mean of the Rothschilds with an S? No? Okay, then who is he? And how did it ruin his business reputation? So I think the only reason they changed her name on it was because they had no choice to file this sham-ass lawsuit. They have participated and may continue to participate in efforts to harm. Oh, who's this talking? Let's back up a little bit. The lawsuit. Oh, okay. This is from the lawsuit. They have participated and may continue to participate in efforts to harm plaintiff, including by failing to act in plaintiff's best interest, taking actions to their personal benefit at plaintiff's expense, failing to freely communicate with plaintiff regarding matters that imply plaintiff's business and reputation or impact plaintiff's business and reputation, and disclosing a third party's information, read one of the typically vague sentences. Yeah, it's so vague. Nowhere in the suit submitted by New York attorney Samantha Coetzee does it name any person on either side, allowing the case to slip unnoticed into the legal system. And so this is, again, there's that summons piece. It doesn't say subpoena. So is there a subpoena still somewhere that we haven't seen? VanZan Inc., plaintiff against Doe's 1 to 10 inclusive defendants. Supreme Court of State of New York, County of New York. 9/27/2024, index number summons. So they circle here, dated New York, September 27th, 2024. And they have the copy of the case summons shows it was dated September 27th, 2024, 7 weeks after the It Ends With Us premiere. It says the lawsuit accuses up to 10 unnamed individuals listed only as Doe's 1 to 10 of harming VanZan's business and reputation, only vaguely describing the alleged misconduct, which nature of the action. 1, this action arises out of an ongoing campaign to damage plaintiff's business and plaintiff's reputation. 2, upon information and belief, the Doe defendants have certain contractual and confidentiality obligations and obligations of good faith and loyalty to plaintiff regarding plaintiff's business and reputation by way of oral promises and or written agreements. 3, despite these obligations, the Doe defendants have undertaken direct efforts to contravene these agreements and instead have participated and may continue to participate in efforts to harm plaintiff, including by failing to act in plaintiff's best interest, taking actions to their personal benefit at plaintiff's expense, failing to freely communicate with plaintiff regarding matters that impact plaintiff's business and reputation, and disclosing to third parties and failing to keep strict plaintiff's confidential and or private information. And 4, this conduct constitutes breach of the agreements and obligations owed by the Doe defendants to plaintiff and has caused significant reputational and economic damages to plaintiff. What economic damages to VanZan, Blake? Just 4 days after the filing on October 1st, Coetzee issued a subpoena to Baldoni's ex-publicist Stephanie Jones and her company Joneswork, who had recently parted ways with the actor, demanding all documents and communications relating to Lively, her husband Ryan Reynolds, their companies, and Baldoni. A copy of the subpoena, which has not been made public, was reviewed by dailymail.com. Jones did not object to the subpoena and turned over a trove of private messages between Jennifer Abel, a former staffer at the PR agency who continued working with Baldoni, and crisis management guru Melissa Nathan. Jones had retrieved the messages from Abel's company-issued phone after Abel told her she was quitting Jones' work in July. The texts purportedly show Baldoni, Abel, and Nathan coordinating a negative publicity campaign against Lively, even while they were meant to be promoting 2024 movie It Ends With Us, starring Lively and Baldoni and created by Baldoni's production team, Wayfarer Studios. I genuinely don't understand what Justin would have got from smearing Blake Lively during the premiere or anything attached to It Ends With Us. It would directly negatively impact his pocket. It makes no fucking sense. It doesn't make any sense that Justin was involved in smearing the lead of his movie and arguably the biggest draw to his movie. Blake Lively was the biggest name. She was the highest paid actress on the film. What did he get from smearing her? Blake, I'm waiting. I am so angry over this whole thing now. If one now infamous text, Nathan wrote, "We can bury anyone," allegedly referring to this strategy to deal with Lively. After quietly issuing the subpoena, Katsi then asked for the VanZan suit to be withdrawn without any further action on December 19th. Y'all knew they weren't does. Stop it. Stop with this shit. Stop it, Blake. You knew who it was. You did shady ass shit to get around the legal process, and you used a loophole just like you do in your narrative control, your SEO manipulation, your astroturfing. You use loopholes to benefit you. Stop it. Records show that VanZan was founded in 2010 in Delaware, a state notorious for its corporate secrecy. Public records there give no clue to its owner. However, the firm later did business in California, requiring it to file in that state too, revealing Lively is behind the company. A September 2023 California corporate filing lists Blake Reynolds, Lively's married name, as the company's CEO, secretary, and chief financial officer, and states the firm is in the entertainment industry. The only business the firm has been publicly recorded doing before the Manhattan lawsuit is importing some home goods from the UK. U.S. Customs record lists VanZan as receiving 2 shipments of furniture, fabric, and doors from the British shop in 2019 delivered to Lively's address in Westchester County, New York. The imported goods were listed as for the attention of Molly Caro, a public relations officer who was also credited as a producer for Taylor Swift's I Bet You Think About Me, Taylor's version music video, which was directed by Blake Lively. The imported goods, the only thing this company has ever had on record other than a shady lawsuit to try and take out Justin Baldoni, is imported goods to the attention of Molly Caro, a public relations officer who was also credited as a producer for Taylor Swift's I Bet You Think About Me music video. Legal experts asked to review the VanZan case by dailymail.com warned the alleged scheme looked bad for Lively's team. No shit. So this picture here, subsequent filings show VanZan dropped the lawsuit on December 19th, just one day before Lively formally filed her CRD complaint. Here's the public records for VanZan, a list of business addresses in New York, and its CEO is Blake Reynolds. And we already went over that timeline. So this was filed September 2023, but we know that it was used by her previously. Actually, I think I got the date wrong. I think I said 2021 for her purchasing the Taylor Swift. Maybe I didn't, but either way, 2019. I might have got the date wrong in my timeline, and I apologize if I put the wrong date in the timeline. But 2019, she purchased through I still think the company was just not under her name from the get-go, because how do you, when you're Cheaty McCheaterson, and start a company with your girlfriend? All right. Ron Zambrano, probably mispronounced his name. I'm horrible with names. You guys just have to deal with it, and I apologize to everyone. This is a sham lawsuit generated for an ulterior motive, which can be sanctionable for a waste of judicial processes. Ron, employment litigation chair at California firm West Coast Trial Lawyers. I believe he's been on Popcorn Planet. They intentionally did this to really work in a way surreptitious and clandestine way. It's super shady. Celebrity attorney Peter Gleason, who has represented dozens of Hollywood clients, told DailyMail.com this looks like a ruse to try and interject legitimacy into obtaining discovery that is intended to be used in another cause of action. If that's the case, it's totally inappropriate. The experts pointed out that it's highly unusual for a firm would sue its own staff or representatives without apparently even knowing who they are. You think? Because they're all bullshitters. Litigator Keith Davidson, a co-host of Ask Two Lawyers. Oh, I love that he's quoted in this. A legal podcast that has covered the Blake Lively Baldoni case, said, it's very rare to sue only Joe defendants. It doesn't make any sense to me. These are the text messages that they apparently got, which we already know were edited. And the fact that it's a vague complaint, the whole thing appears to be a fig leaf, said co-founder of Albertson and Davidson. Lively's attorney Ezra Hudson said Doe lawsuits are common and entirely appropriate legal tools for pursuing claims and uncovering the identity of unknown perpetrators of unlawful actions. You knew who they were. You knew who they were. Don't tell me Stephanie Jones wasn't like, hey girl, hey, I've got these text messages and you're going to want to see this from Justin and Wayfair and Jennifer Abel and the whole lot. Don't tell them. And even if that Stephanie Jones knew who they were, oh my God, I can't even deal with the lying that these people do as if it's like normal. It's just so natural to them to lie through their teeth. My blood pressure can't take this case. My Fitbit's going to start going off for a heart rate warning. This lawsuit unearthed the Wayfair's party documented plan in their own words and their own text messages to destroy Blake Lively. Their faux outrage has nothing to do with legal ethics or law, which are not an issue here, and is entirely about the fact that they got caught doing something that they insisted would be untraceable. Hudson was backed by Los Angeles-based attorney Lincoln Banlow, who said it's not unusual to file a lawsuit against unnamed defendants if the plaintiff doesn't know. They knew, though. That's the problem. For example, in defamation cases against anonymous social media users. You mean to tell me her staff was a secret social media user that they didn't know who it was? Give me a break. Banlow said Lively may have just used VanZan to avoid attracting media attention. No, it was to do shit in the dark so that people were blindsided. Give me a break. If they were trying to stay a little under the radar with this, it's not. Yeah, that's exactly what they were doing. There's nothing unusual about using this kind of mechanism to uncover who's doing things you believe are improper. Well, what happens when you know who they are? They're not a Doe anymore. Until DailyMail.com's discovery of the VanZan lawsuit, the timeline of the court battle between Lively 37 and Baldoni 41 appeared to begin in December when she filed a CRD complaint. Lively claimed he had acted unprofessionally on the set of It Ends With Us. She also accused him and his publicist of launching smear campaigns. Baldoni filed a countersuit in January. All right, I think that's all we need to know here because my blood pressure can't take anymore. All right. What do you guys think? I think this is a load of crap. They knew it was shady, which is why they've brought in people to help hide the fact it's shady, which is getting out regardless. So not really money well spent. They knew who the people were and they're claiming they're Does. It's a misuse of the legal process, which upsets me so much to take someone down that they just didn't like. And the fact that they planned this all along, when you look at the timeline, all of these people were in on it. I don't care what anyone says. Gigi knew what was going on. Bradley Cooper, Taylor Swift, everyone knew because all of those people were all together all the time and publicly being seen together. There's no way when you look at the timeline that they weren't aware of what's going on. I don't believe it. Maybe Discovery will show us something different. I look forward to Discovery, but I can't foresee everyone being in the dark. The idea that Blake manipulated Taylor Swift this whole time, I don't believe it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. All right, guys. Anyway, let me know in the comments, what do you think about this? Holy Hannah, this case just gets crazier by the day. Take care of yourself, stay hydrated, eat healthy foods, take mental health breaks from this case because, man, you need it. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys. What I found nobody wants me to hear. What I found nobody wants me to hear.